Hey!
There he is.
What's up, everybody? My name is Sen. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different. As you can see, I have a good friend of mine, Mr. Mark, aka OLAF the BARD. You guys can find him on YouTube, Twitch, pretty much wherever you think of. What do you primarily do when it comes to... Oh, I should probably move this. What do you primarily do when it comes to streaming and recording? What's your preference? What do you like to show off?
I mean, it's pretty. There's no like specific game. It's pretty much just kind of like I do shit with my friends and then upload it most of the time.
Yeah, so I noticed you've been doing like a lot of Let's Play content, guys. I've been trying. Mark and I had a little bit of a discussion yesterday. I've been trying to get this man to do some more.
YouTube does not like Let's Play content.
Yeah, I was trying to get him to do some more discussion-based things, and what I wanted to talk to you about today was we had a little bit of a comment section conversation about improvement and what that kind of looks like what kind of shapes and sizes that comes in. And as a Overwatch player, an ex-Overwatch player, you, I believe, said you were once upon a time Diamond rank. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was a peak 32, I think it was 69, nice support player. I was also on a team that played between the ranks of like low Diamond to low Masters for tournament play. So I have a little bit of competitive experience. They're obviously not professional, but...
So to contextualize that a little bit, in Overwatch, at least out of the statistics that I gathered, from Diamond upwards is the like 13% of the population for the Overwatch.
Is it 13 now?
Yeah.
It was like 18% when I was there, I think. So
at least
I'm probably not as good as modern Diamond.
At least out of what I looked up, and very much on the different side of the spectrum. So Mark comes from Overwatch, and I'm kind of, as you guys know, if you've seen anything on the channel, I'm a fighting game player primarily, and my rank for my primary game, which is Dragon Ball FighterZ, is God of Destruction, which is, out of what I read, I don't know if this is accurate, but it says the upper 5% of the player base. Not sure how true that actually is, but that's what I read. If you guys have any corrections.
That wouldn't surprise me, because like I see your videos every once in a while, and you play against people higher ranked than you, and you seem to do just fine. You know, obviously they typically will hold an advantage over you at higher rank, but
yeah,
you're able to beat those.
I definitely got bodied a little bit today. My hands were nice and frosty, but that's all good. So I wanted to ask you, what kind of got you into gaming more competitively? What kind of drove you and got you started as like, oh, you know, I really want to be Diamond, I really want to get better at this game?
Yeah. Well, it's actually kind of funny. So I never really was super competitive in gaming.
Sure.
I'd play PvP games like Call of Duty and shit like that, but I never really cared how good I was. And I was actually watching an old YouTuber I used to watch. Shadow Beats was playing Overwatch. He was playing Sombra, and I was like, man, that looks fun. I want to do that.
Right.
So I played Sombra. I ranked and got silver. Everyone flamed me for playing Sombra, so I ended up playing healers because I always play healer in every game I play. Next season, I ranked bronze, and I can't remember who it was, but I was watching a streamer play, and he was in Diamond, and I was like, man, this looks cool. I want to do that. So I just kind of like went to the grind to make it up to Diamond, and eventually did. And then Double Shield happened, so I stopped playing until Overwatch 2.
So a little bit about what I've talked about this before, but what got me started on my grind was that I posted some Dragon Ball FighterZ videos back in the day, like way back before I even met you, and a friend of mine by the name of Juan, he commented on my videos. He's like, oh, you're trash, you're just mashing auto combo, like you're so bad at the game, I would beat you. I was like, all right, bitch. And I just set like a small goal for myself. Is like, oh, I just want to reach Frieza Clan or whatever it was, because there was an achievement for that, because I wanted to 100% the game. And then after that, after I reached Frieza Clan, like I just wanted to see how high I could go. So it wasn't a case of nobody talked shit to you. That's not what got you started.
I mean, I guess collectively in all of my competitive games when I played Sombra, people did. But no, typically everyone in like bronze knows that they suck. Typically.
Sure.
So when you join a bronze game, it's a lot of like, hey man, can you like do 10 more damage in a fight? And that would be really nice. Like they don't really care if you get kills. They're just like, can you just not suck as much as you do?
So
yeah.
it
was an interesting experience going from bronze to Diamond, though, I'll tell you.
Oh, that. I bet. Yeah, I mean, just taking a look at like a game like League of Legends, if you watch like, you know, Diamond, Gold, Silver, Bronze players, and then if you watch like something like LCS, the way the game is played is dramatically different. Like you won't see like more than 10 kills after like 20 or 30 minutes. They're focused on purely objective. They're not worried about like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get fed, drop a 20
they also,
bomb.
Yeah, and they also don't make a lot of mistakes. So like, it's like a lot of early game kills in League of Legends specifically is people make mistakes, you capitalize on it. And LCS, they're not really making those mistakes.
No.
There's not a lot of capitalization.
Yeah, I mean, just like even the upper echelon of player, like what Diamond looks like in League compared to like Bronze or Silver is much closer than what Diamond looks like to LCS. It's way different.
Right.
And like a lot of that goes, it does compare to fighting games, but I feel like fighting games is the one example where you kind of can look at more competitive gameplay and actually pull a bit more from it, especially with like the contrast like League.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's there's a lot of benefit to fighting games being a single player versus single player game, because you can watch one person do something the entire fight, rather than if I was trying to watch one person do something in Overwatch, get something out of it, I would have to watch 5 times, because I'd have to watch one person all the way through, then one person all the way through, So I think there's definitely a benefit there. There's also the fact that like fighting games is a lot more about meta information than it is about like macro play. You know what I mean? So if you understand the frame data, if you understand your combos, their combos, when you're plus, when you're negative, typically you're going to be a pretty high ranked player.
You will do definitely good. I've definitely made the example a couple different times with Guilty Gear Strive. I love Guilty Gear. It's such a like fun game to play.
Picking that up.
Dude, it's a lot of fun. We should definitely play. But the entire time that I've played, I've never looked up frame data in that game, and I've reached it like I've reached pretty high up, and just based off of like, okay, this works. I can infer that this is probably like plus or minus, or this always hits people or whatever. What does something like that, so for me looking up frame data, what does that look like in a game for Overwatch? Is it like just understanding ratios of like scaling or?
So like obviously you can look up like damage numbers and you can understand like hitboxes and stuff, but no one really cares about that kind of stuff. If you're higher level, you'll understand damage numbers just from playing the game. Like I know that if I'm going against a Widow without even looking up her damage, if I have 250 or less health, a fully charged headshot kills me, right? But I think it would mostly show in like tank play probably, because like the most important thing for tanks to do is to create and hold space, right? So a lot of people think, especially in the lower ranks, this is really funny. When I would play with some of my lower rank friends, I'd play tank because my tank's highest rank was gold. And I don't know if I'm actually a gold tank or if I'm higher or lower, but like that's where I ranked. I didn't play very often. And I would play Reinhardt, and I would take probably a total of 400, 500 damage in a fight. Whereas other silver Reinhardts would take like 2,000 damage in a fight, right? And the difference was they were sitting out in the open thinking, okay, I'm a tank, my job is to take damage. Whereas I was sitting behind corners swinging my hammer and throwing fire strikes like, okay, I need to find a chance to push the enemy back. So I think the biggest difference is understanding where to position. So, for example, in lower ranks, you'll see a lot of people sitting on the ground the entire fight right behind their tank, and then like one player that knows how to punish that will just walk past the tank and kill the entire enemy team. And people they'll blame the Reinhardt for that, but it's like you should be up on the high ground, man. You should be where they can't get to you. So it's basically just a lot of like knowing where to be and what to do.
So something else I wanted to bring up too was I saw a conversation about League of Legends from the perspective of Japanese players. Like they were talking about American-based players like always flocking to whatever's top tier or whatever is good, where apparently, out of what I understand, the Japanese players were sticking much closely to what they were comfortable with and what they've like come to know.
Yeah,
that definitely like aligns with fighting games as well. Does that align with something like Overwatch?
I think we all know that Korea is like the notorious dominator of pretty much all video games. I think what specifically differentiates most of the Asian player base from the Western player base is that the Western player base will see a meta and they will play the meta. And this is good because meta means it's the best thing to play, right? But the only reason it's the best thing to play is because that's the best thing people have found. It's not like we know objectively that that's the best.
Sure.
The biggest difference between the Asian and the Western servers is the Asian servers are willing to do things that no one else thinks of. Like League of Legends is actually a great example. I'm sure you've seen the jungle changes.
Yeah, a little bit.
So in Korea, on the Korean servers, what high level players have found is if the mid laner takes smite, they can buy one of the jungle items after the jungler finishes their jungle item, and then they can start jungling, and they'll have like a 5 level advantage.
Oh wow.
No one in America thought to do that because taking smite on your mid laner was a throw, right? Like that's not meta. You shouldn't do that. But because some Koreans decided to try that, they ended up creating a new meta that was completely broken that you couldn't really counter. So the biggest difference is that like Asian players are typically more likely to be creative with what they do, whereas Western players are more likely to just do what other people
Flock to what it seems good at the time.
Yeah.
So is there any games apart from Overwatch that you kind of got in like a competitive state of mind? Once you got competitive about Overwatch, did your perspective of other games change as well?
I'd say my perspective did change. I didn't get as competitive with other games, but I'd say like there was a while I was playing Dead or Alive 6 pretty heavy. I played 100 games of ranked in that. I had a
Nice.
66% win rate. It was pretty good.
What do you think about Dead or Alive?
Oh, Dead or Alive's my favorite fighting game.
Really? Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. It's so good.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, but continue.
Yeah, no, you're good. And I'm more than happy to talk more on that. But and then there was also I played Dead by Daylight for probably 2 years. Made it up to top ranks. Me and my brother together. Fucking hated it. So we deranked just so we could fuck around and have fun.
Right
But yeah,
on.
no, I was definitely competitive with Dead by Daylight for a while. But I just like you can only run the same circle for 3 minutes at a time so many times before you go, well, this isn't fun.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt when I got super heavy into like Dragon Ball and Street Fighter and other things, like when I came back to mess around with League, like my perspective of not just like, I would say my perspective actually shifted in a good manner where like before, and people that I know would look at ranked like it was, man, I don't know, they just put like an aura around ranked where it's like, guys, it's serious now. Like
Yeah, that's true. It's true. People take ranked so seriously.
where when after like playing fighting games, like I had the reverse of that. Like it de-escalated how serious I actually took to ranked. Like I still played to win at the end of the day, but it wasn't like, it went from casuals to being my main source of play to ranked being my main source of play, and then casual games were like my live version of training mode.
Right. I think that's actually funny you say that. So I've been playing quick play in Overwatch 2. I'm a support player, so if I play competitive, I'm just going to die on repeat right now. So I've been playing a lot of quick play, and I've noticed the people in quick play want to win just as much as the people in competitive. I think the difference is the connotation they give it. People in quick play are looking at it like, okay, I'm going to play this game, I'm going to give it my best, and whatever the result is whatever. Whereas people in competitive go, okay, I'm going to play this game, give it my best, and if that's not good enough, then I'm going to yell at everyone else and hope that they pick up the slack because obviously it's not me.
It's not
Right.
my fault.
Yeah, and it's never their fault, right? It's never any person's fault. And, you know, what people got to understand is in a team game, even if you are the best player on your team, you have to understand that you still have partial responsibility. Unless your team has, like, whatever their responsibility is, say you have a healer and they have, like, they finish a 3-round game where you typically can get, like, 8,000 healing in a round, and they finish the entire 3 rounds with, like, 2,000 healing. Yeah, okay. Sure, you could say your healers were absolute garbage, right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if your team is performing close to average, you do still have some level of responsibility to the outcome of the game, regardless of if you were the best player or not. So when you end up with like 14,000 damage, well, maybe it's because you were doing a lot of damage, but you weren't killing people, right? Like, you got to keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's always your fault or there's always something you could do to win, because sometimes you lose at the character selection.
Yeah, so I definitely had a lot of that when it came to League. Like I never really flamed anybody unless they like started flaming me or my teammates, and it was like, all right,
Right.
dude, suck a dick, like fuck off, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But one of my main problems is like that I was running into with the frustration factor for League of Legends is I would main mid and top. I would do great because I'll go into it, but you already kind of explained it as well. And even
Yeah.
though I was doing great, like it just wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't resulting into any wins. It would just be like, oh, okay, like bot lane got fucked on, they got really fed, and then that translated some like jungle was doing really good, and then I was the only lane on my team that was doing good, and it's just like, man, this fucking sucks. And
Classic adage: win lane, lose game.
that's another reason why I kind of liked fighting games, that like I really shifted more over to fighting games, because the journey was my own. Like I had nobody else to blame but myself. Not that I should be blaming any, because like you said,
but you're 100% responsible,
absolutely,
rather than 20% responsible.
but like I even made a video about this like a while back, where it's just like there at the end of the day there's always more you can do. Like let's say, yeah, I killed it on lane, but instead of just killing it on lane and like thinking that the best idea was to push my lane, like maybe I could help top so they could get fed, or maybe I could like swing bot and kill jungle so that they're out of the game, have my jungle kill their camps so that they can't get any stronger. And like, yeah, there's always more you can do. And like I was just getting so frustrated. Also, I noticed you have a Yu Yu Hakusho poster, and that's fucking lit.
Oh yeah, I got that at SnafuCon, and I have that poster back there that Jason got me.
I know, I still have mine too.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
I miss Jason, good guy. But yeah, I kind of derailed myself here a little bit.
You're good. Well, I was gonna say on the League of Legends laning specifically, League of Legends is a very unfortunate tragedy of competitive gaming, where there's actually 2 games you play in each game, and those games are from 1 to about 20 minutes. You're playing. Your team is agreeing to not lose the game. They're not trying to win the game. They're trying not to lose the game. And then from 21 to whatever the end of the game is, then they're trying to win the game. So the problem with laning phase is, unless you have a super coordinated team like in LCS, any time one lane loses and the rest of the lanes go even, you're at such a disadvantage that you're really having to struggle to win the game. So it's literally just you're agreeing not to lose the game, which is super tragic.
So like with that being said too, like another appeal for me, and people will disagree with me on this like very adamantly, but if in my opinion it feels better to lose in a fighting game than it does in like League of Legends or like
Sure.
maybe a shooter. I don't think I could.
I think it depends on your attitude in the shooter,
Because
like,
the way I look at it is, let's say I get beat up in a fighting game. That's like 5, maybe 10 minutes at most.
Sure.
Like at most. Like 10 minutes for a fighting game is pretty fucking long. But like after that, I'm in the next one. Like after that, it's done. And there's really cool things that can happen with me losing like really bad. Let's just say I got absolutely fucked up. If I want, I could like watch the replay and see what I did wrong. You can absolutely do that in other genres of games as well. But also like there are interactions while you're getting beat up. Like you can maybe tech out, or in Guilty Gear you can burst. You can like try to use a comeback mechanic early. You could try to use it later, whatever. But getting fucked up in League of Legends sucks, because you're getting fucked up for at minimum 20 minutes. And well, I mean, lowest if someone leaves 15. But like you're stuck
they never surrender 50.
You're stuck in that one game, like just absolutely getting fucked on. And yes, you can absolutely make comebacks in League of Legends. Like I've seen it, I've done it before.
But the problem with it is the comeback doesn't feel good, right? Like even if you make the comeback and win, you're still upset. You're still like, man, I shouldn't have had to do that.
At the end of it, if you do make a comeback, I've never felt so exhausted in a game before.
Because it feels like work, right? It feels like you're having to put in work. You're basically babysitting your team when you carry a game like that.
Yeah, I mean, not even necessarily just from the carry aspect, but just like, you know, scaling hard late game. Like you have to pray to God that after like a 40 or maybe even an hour long game that you make a comeback. In a fighting game, if I play a fighting game for an hour, I have an amazing session. Like 2 hours, like that's great. And that's another big part of it too, was like League of Legends was a hardcore time investment, because you couldn't just play like one game of League. You couldn't just play for an hour and be like satisfied with that session.
Well, an hour is like one game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For me, like 1 hour is like a great session. I was like, oh yeah, I learned some stuff. I got some combos.
Yeah, I'll say League of Legends is a really good friend game. It's a game that you play when you want to just fuck around with your friends and have fun.
Get
It's not a
really drunk
competitive
or
game.
like
Yeah.
whatever.
It is easily the worst competitive game I've ever played. Every time I've played solo, I've hated it. It's just not fun. It's not a fun game at all.
No, like, and the times that I have the most fun with League of Legends, like, don't people, if anyone's watching this, like, don't get it twisted. Like, I still have a love and appreciation for League, but it's, if I'm gonna play something competitively, I'd rather play almost anything else.
Same.
But I've had a lot of fun in games of League where, like, you know, me and Brandon will be on bot lane just doing some stupid shit like Pantheon Blitzcrank,
And shit. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we're like drunk or fucked up or whatever, and we're just like laughing, not caring about what happens on any of the other lanes.
Yeah.
I did want to shift a bit back to kind of grinding and climbing a little bit. Was there a point, and I feel like this happens for most people, was there a point where you got like stuck in your climb? Like were you hard stuck,
Absolutely.
gold or
So,
silver?
I mean, I got stuck at every rank, obviously, because you have to improve your skill before you can improve your rank, and my skill improved at the rate that a person's skill who works 10 to 11 hours a day can improve.
I get that, man.
So yeah, I did get stuck in every rank, but I would say like, so people talk about Elo Hell in Overwatch, which I'm sure is in other games as well, but in Overwatch specifically, Elo Hell's this concept that ranking up is impossible unless you get super lucky or whatever, which isn't really true. However, I think that it might be true between like 2,900 and 3,000. I swear to God, the people who have the highest confidence in Overwatch exist in 2,900 to 3,000. They think that they could take any Overwatch League team 1v5. I cannot tell you the amount of times I have pointed out a mistake someone was making and then they died and blamed me for it. It was fucking crazy. So yeah, but just getting like just before Diamond, because Diamond's 3,000, that's where I got stuck the hardest.
So what was the crossing point? So obviously you did make it to Diamond eventually. Like, do you feel like you learned anything, like, you know, it's like friendly streamer guys 5 quick tips to becoming Diamond?
Yeah,
was it anything like that, or was it like, because for me, like, and I'll bring up OP here in a second. We talked about him, and he was in our comment conversation. Like, he and I both got stuck, and we like backed away from the game. We put down the game and then came back to it, and then it was like we unlocked something in our brains. Like, it just happened randomly.
Sorry, I'm taking notes because I want to come back to what you just said.
No, go for it, please.
But so in response to like the 5 tips to get into Diamond or whatever, I don't know if it's still the same. I think the rank system's very different. I haven't even played it in Overwatch 2. But in Overwatch, what I learned, the 5 tips you could have. First off, you got to focus inward first. You got to focus on your own play. You got to focus on what you can do to help your shitty teammates play like an average teammate. Because like there's nothing you can do to make them better. All you can do is make yourself better. And the second thing is, this is something that I shouldn't say because it's going to make people feel enabled, but I fucking screamed at people. When people wouldn't listen, I actually would yell at them until they would do the optimal thing.
Oh my God, you're not a yeller though. Like,
No. That's like the only time I'd yell at people. I
Wow.
would scream. I would get, like, I wouldn't really get mad, but I'm like, they won't listen to me unless I scream at them. Because everyone that's in like platinum has abusive dads, and they really need that in order to get the information. But fuck it, like, dude, seriously, like, they would be so stupid, and they would argue with you, and I'm like, bro, we're playing a cooperative game. Just fucking do it. But yeah, it's. But anyway, I want to talk about being stuck on rank. So obviously, there's. I honestly think the most important thing to ranking up is mental. You can be the best player in the world, but with bad mental, you're gonna lose pretty much any game, right? So the problem that people run into is they get so stuck on the grind that they get burnt out. And when you get burnt out, you're going to play the game on autopilot. And on autopilot, you're just doing the things that you did before that worked at lower ranks, but they're not working at the rank you're at. Taking a step back from a game is really, really important. You can go in and you can grind 8 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week. But eventually you're going to stop climbing just because you're stuck on that, right? Like, you're stuck on that mindset. You need to clear your mind. And this is why I think it's really important for people to play numerous types of games and numerous types of competitive games. I play fighting games, I play FPS games, I play MOBA, well, a MOBA.
Sure.
I play card games, I play single player games that are casual, JRPGs. I play all sorts of things because you need to be able to reset for your competitive mindset. Um, and the biggest problem is people think that they can't take a break because they'll lose their mechanics, right? Which is true. You will lose your mechanics if you're not practicing. But all you have to do, and I actually did this when I was trying to get past that platinum to diamond hump, is I would log into the game, I would do a 1 to 2 hour warm up, then I'd stop playing the game. I wouldn't play any games. I wouldn't play any competitive games. I would just warm up my mechanics, and then I'd move to something else.
Okay.
You gotta be able to, like, if you're really focused on climbing, you gotta understand there's gonna be times that you hate the game, times you're not having fun. If you want to have fun, don't play competitive.
Sure.
Not always fun. Competitive's fun when you see the reward. The payoff is what makes it fun. The process isn't fun, right? So, and you got to remember that the process is more important than the result. A lot of people will play and they'll have a session where they go like negative 100 SR, and they'll think, "Wow, I really failed here. This sucked." But the process is what's important. Are you changing things? Are you looking for mistakes? Are you fixing those mistakes? Are you working on, are you watching your replays? Are you communicating better? If you do all of those things and you still lose, guess what? That's not on you, right? Like you're working on the process, and as long as you carry that process into every game, you will eventually rank up.
Yeah, I mean, similarly on that, like, you can definitely, like, once I'm the fighting game guy. You guys got to understand. I'm gonna bring every point over to fighting games. Is that like I feel maybe more than other games, like you can lose in a fighting game versus another game, and you can feel like good about it because like you have, and I think this definitely applies for other games, sure, but like at least just personally out of personal experience, like. Let's say I want to focus on something super basic so I can improve. Like I need to work on anti-airing, I need to work on teching throws, or maybe I just want to land a sick combo. Like if I like anti-air every jump in, but I still like lose, I'm just like I'm hype about it. It's like, oh, all right, cool. Like I'm anti-airing. Like I lost the game probably pretty bad, but the time I got to do like try on my combo, I landed it and I feel great. Is it similar, or would you say there's like a disconnect there? Like, because I know the points like kind of align as well, but I feel like execution in the two games is just very different, and that's why
Right.
I'm curious about the comparison.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like what you're describing is kind of like being content with the process rather than the result, because obviously losing is a negative, and you're never going to be happy that you lost. What you're happy about is the performance that you displayed in a situation that you didn't think you could display that performance. So like for you, if you go into a game with someone who's significantly higher ranked than you, and you like get dropped down to one character, you're at 1 HP and they've got 3 characters, and you kill 2 of their characters before you die, you're probably gonna be pretty happy with that,
Sure.
right? Because you followed the process, you keep working on the process, and in doing that, you actually almost pulled off a ridiculous comeback. A lot of people, and this counts for most casual players getting into competitive, and this is why it's important to understand this, is a lot of people would lose that. They would get to the point where they're 1 versus 3, maybe they'd KO one character and then lose their character, and then they get upset. And it doesn't really make much sense to get upset because, bro, you had no support. You had one character, they had 3, they had assists they could throw at you, and you still took one of their characters out. Like, the process was showing results, but because the end result was that you lost, you got mad, right?
Totally.
And this is the same in Overwatch as well. When I go into a game and I get like 22,000 healing, I've got like 20, 30 times I've saved someone. I've won more duels than I've lost from people diving me, and I still lose the game. I'm pretty happy with that. But a lot of people are upset. They're screaming at their team, telling them, "I'm doing good. Why aren't you?"
Well,
So, yeah,
you were
it
screaming at
definitely-
your team, right?
Well, yeah.
No,
But at the end of the
messing
game,
with
I wouldn't scream at them. But
you guys suck. Good
my
job.
thing is like, yeah, exactly. But my thing is like, it comes down to mental. You've got to. It depends on what you're looking for. When people play competitive, most of them play to win. Good competitive players play to improve.
Okay, I like it. No, that's definitely mindset is super important, and like a lot of people when they set out a goal. So for yourself, it was platinum. For me, back in the day, it was freeze a clan. It's very easy.
Which apparently you blew past. By
Oh
the
yeah,
way.
long ago. Yeah, so once you set a goal, I feel like an important thing that people kind of sidestep is they focus so hard on the goal, like the end of the road goal, that they
Right.
forget to set like little goals along the way, because
Yes,
you
absolutely.
won't
Yeah.
get gratification until you reach that big goal, but there's a lot of like micro steps you need to take in order to reach that.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. What there's some goal system. I can't remember what it was, but it's a psychology thing. And
mhm,
it's you have a grand goal and like minor goals, and the minor goals are supposed to lead you up to the grand goal. Is essentially how it works. Because you're never gonna feel good if like if I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start playing competitive and my goal is diamond, and I go, oh, I was in silver last season and I'm in bronze this season. I guess that's never gonna fucking happen. You know, like no, that's stupid. You got to be like, okay, well now my goal is silver, and
yeah, I
then now
think
that I'm in
that's
silver, my goal is gold. You know.
I definitely think that's a lot of why you will see people like quitting games, um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because they just the
I
goal
mean,
that they
I've quit games for that reason. You
sure,
know.
uh, but like they just have like something so grand, and then it just feels impossible to reach. It's like, oh fuck
Mhm.
this, why do I even care anymore? Like, and then
Yep.
like yeah, you just stop enjoying the game. Um,
Yeah.
I was stuck as far as rank is concerned in Dragon Ball. I was stuck between Majin and Super Saiyan 3, and I was just like constantly like going back and forth from one to another,
Hmm.
and it was like so frustrating. And I literally, much like OP, I put down the game, and then I didn't touch a fighting game. Like I was pretty much exclusively playing League, and then I just came back and then blew right by it. And then OP
Yep.
was saying that they were stuck in bronze for Street Fighter 5, and they put down the game. They moved over to some DNF and Guilty Gear, and they came back and they reached silver pretty easily. Which
Yep.
part of it
Better
is
mental.
definitely having the reset to like kind of unclog your brain from everything, but
Hmm.
also like for their example, like it makes more sense than mine does. Like I didn't touch a fighting game. For OP, they went to DNF and Guilty Gear, and chances are they were learning things that they could apply towards Street Fighter, but also like
Hmm.
DNF and Guilty Gear are like faster paced games. Like the things that you
Yeah.
look out for, they're it's just different, and then you can come back with like some new ideas, some fresh ideas that like, oh man, I saw this in Guilty Gear, like I wonder how I could do that
Yeah.
here.
Well, and there's also something that a lot of people don't realize is that learning is a skill,
Oh,
right? Like
absolutely.
you don't just learn. Learning isn't like an absolute. The way you learn changes based on your experience, and your experience comes from experiencing different things. So if I play one competitive game my entire life, and I'm the number one player in that game, and then I go to a different competitive game, and I've never played any other competitive games, I'm gonna be in the like bottom 90%, right? Like I'm gonna be shit at the game. But if I'm like above average in five competitive games and I go to another competitive game, I'm more likely to start above average in that game because you've learned how to learn,
Hmm.
essentially. And you're able to pick up on the competitive mechanics and the competitive metagame a lot quicker. And this is actually true of a lot of card game players. You can take someone who's really experienced at card games into another card game and they'll figure out how to play it in like an hour. But for someone like me who's not as experienced in card games, like the only game I put an excessive amount of time into is Yu-Gi-Oh, and
I thought
I
you were gonna
go
say
from
Dragon Ball.
no. I go from Yu-Gi-Oh into another game. The first deck I'm gonna build is gonna be garbage, right? Because I don't understand how the game works. I need time to figure it out. Whereas other people, they'll look at it and they'll go, "Oh, okay, I see. This works like this," you know. So there's definitely like a competitive brain you have to develop, and that's where the training becomes more than just mechanics and game knowledge. It becomes also developing your own competitive brain.
And something you said too, in our comment conversation was an important thing you learned along the way of your climb was how to lose gracefully.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually, I put that down up here. Um, the problem with losing is that it sucks. The problem with things that suck is that we don't want to experience things that suck. So, when people lose, they get mad, they start flaming, they start blaming people, they start telling the enemy team that they're playing broken, brain dead champions, blah, blah, blah. Literally, you can actually probably increase your climb's efficiency by about two times by, at the end of the game, the only thing you say is GG. This is actually a real thing. If you type GG at the end of every single game, no matter how mad you are, you're gonna do a lot better. because when you start feeding into that anger and you start letting other people feed that anger, you're just going to put yourself in a worse mental state. You're going to go into the next game thinking about it. You're already like, say you had a bad DPS player in your last game, and then you go into another game and they pick a DPS character that's not meta. You're already flaming them, even if you haven't said anything, because you're mad at them because of the DPS player.
Yeah. No,
but if you just say GG, you just say, hey, good try, guys. We did our best. We'll get them next time. And you move on. Guess what, dude? You're going to do a lot better in the next game.
Was that at all a barrier that you had to get through yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a barrier that any competitive player has to get through. I think everyone will assume that everyone will have the same level of like mentality, and they don't. Like, imagine, like, let's put this into a sports analogy. So, imagine I'm Kobe, and I'm on a team, and I've got someone who gets blocked every time he shoots the ball. I'm probably gonna be pretty frustrated, right? Because I'm over here, I've got like 800 points in the game, and you've got 0. I'm probably over here like, bro, what are you doing? Right? But if instead of focusing on that, he just focused on the game, he would win the game, and that's why Kobe was great. Is because he did, right? He did focus on winning the game. He didn't care if he had to pull a little extra. He was like, listen, it's about the team. It's not about me, right? And that's the biggest thing on team games is people forget that you're a part of a team, even if it's someone you're only going to play one game with. You're still a part of a team. Because you're part of a team, you have to have that team mentality.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the most fascinating things about like solo competitive players, or like for instance, just people, because out of what I've experienced, people will hop into ranked with a duo or a full squad or whatever. But
by the way, I do recommend ranking with duo 100% of the time.
That's what I did with League, and then I found, because my mental wasn't as strong as it was before, like I was still even getting like salty at like my friends. It's like, oh, I do so much better solo, like I always win when I'm not queued with you, like like even I have like a little bit of that in me too, but a lot of times I'm like, oh, like, yeah guys, I have like unlimited patience, but in all actuality, like that's far from true.
No one has unlimited patience. I think that's another thing, that's a skill you have to develop.
I think it's fascinating from the perspective of the player that always queues solo, because you're having like, you're getting used to different people's habits on the fly and what they like to do, what they're looking for, like different team comps, maybe characters that you're not used to. Like for me as a fighting game player, I'm just like, oh, okay, I have my guy that I always play. I know how to play him. The only other thing affecting me is what my opponent is playing and how they play.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, and to that, so there's a level of adaptability required in any competitive game.
Absolutely.
I think it's really interesting what you just said, because you can actually view your teammates as a sort of like enemy, right? So if you view your teammates' bad habits as a habit you have to adapt to, you're going to do a lot better. I can be positioning perfectly.
I could be anything you want me to, baby.
I can position perfect with my character, my healer, right? I'm in the perfect position. No one can dive me. I can heal my whole team as long as they play the way that they should play, if they position correctly. But then they're not going to position correctly, right? So then I'm like, okay, I could sit where I'm at and say I'm doing the right thing, and you're not, so it's your fault. I could do that. Or I could find a way to position in a way that puts me in a little bit more danger, but still pretty safe, where I can support them, right? Now, there's this thing I always tell people, which is it's not your fault if your team goes Papega. If your team does something stupid, it's not your job to bail them out. But if your team's not doing anything specifically stupid, they're just positioned poorly, then you should be trying to help them.
Okay. So, when my brain is like fried right now. I didn't get much sleep.
Yeah, I was up at work until 3 in the morning.
Oh, buddy.
Avatar just came out, so.
Do you have any questions or things you'd like to
add
on?
I do.
By all means, fire away.
I want to ask you, as a fairly successful fighting game player, the thing that I get super stuck on with fighting games is I don't like. I guess you could call it like auto combo fatigue. I get so tired of auto combos, but at the same time, you can't really learn combos until you understand the game's mechanics and movement, right? What would you do in that situation where you're stuck on auto combos, but you don't want to do auto combos? combos.
That one, definitely the shift of the conversation was super interesting to begin with. I didn't think that was at all where it was going.
This is my. I have.
So are you
6
tired?
notes, that's my second one.
Are you tired of doing them, or are you tired of seeing them? Are you tired of?
I'm tired of them being the only way I can combo because I don't understand the game's mechanics. I guess I would say.
Chances are that just about any fighting game you pick up will have some form of a trial mode where it's like, all right, these are like combos and far from optimal.
Far from optimal.
Dude, Dragon Balls, like they're.
Oh, trust me, I know.
They're
I've seen
terrible.
your combos.
They're
and
so
I'm like,
bad.
Man, this guy's that base coup video where the dude like
Oh my
basically hovered
God.
to zero to you, man. That was fucking crazy.
That's just literally what base Goku does. He literally just sits in the back and then he's like, oh, hey, I have Sparking, I have Spirit Bomb Charge, I'm gonna fuck you up. No, but,
that was so cool.
So, part of it was, if you're tired of like the combos that you have, chances are a game will have trials for you to do. If the trials, much like Dragon Ball, suck, the best place would be to go to for YouTube. A lot of people will post like, hey, these are like some B&Bs, and if you can't
guess,
quite do the B&Bs, like chances are there's a lot of ways to water down the B&Bs so it's something that you can perform.
I guess more presently the issue is that like because of the lack of time in the game, it's really hard to do combos in the game. You know what I mean? Like you end up getting stuck on auto combos even if you've been practicing combos, just because it's really hard to figure out how to do that in the middle of a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of that is going to be like imposing it on yourself and then forcing yourself to break muscle memory, because like even I'll get locked into muscle memory as well. Like there'll be a more optimal combo that I'll want to try in the middle of the match, but I'm not thinking about it. I'm like reacting in a way that it's just like, oh, okay, like I always punish this with this, but I wanted to try this, but because like my brain isn't there, like it's just actively telling yourself over and over again, it's like, oh no, I want to try that next game, I want to try that next game, and it's just.
So the way because I experienced this in at first time I played Dragon Ball, I did, and then I also experienced this when I played Dead or Alive, where I got really tired of it, and what I ended up doing is I actually just switched a character.
Okay.
In Dead or Alive, and I, instead of pressing any buttons, I immediately pulled up combo.
Instead of pressing
like,
any buttons,
buttons,
I just remapped my whole controller, so I didn't know
literally.
what it was like.
Yeah, no. What I did was I went into the practice in Dead or Alive. I literally just pulled up a combo guide, and I had done no combos with the character, and I just started doing the combos.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really interesting that for you, it's just kind of like a double down on mentality thing. For me, it was like change the approach. You know, it's really rough to break. Like especially since auto combos are designed to be easy to do.
Well, not even like from the perspective of auto combo, but like just normal B&Bs that I'm used to, the combos that I'm always used to doing, whether like somewhat universal combos, like combos in Dragon Ball will look somewhat similar, but like adult Gohan is a prime example of this, where in the corner he has leg loops, and every time I wanted to like, oh, I really want to try these, but I just without even thinking about it, I just did my normal combo.
Yeah, you muscle memory into it. That makes sense.
Yeah, you have to like push out your brain what you know and like rebuild new muscle memory.
That's actually interesting, because that brings us kind of back around to the autopilot thing I brought up earlier, where one of the big issues you're going to run into is you are going to autopilot a lot.
Absolutely.
So it's really important to learn how to think. Yeah, it's important to learn how to think what you're going to do before you do it. And I've actually noticed you do this a lot. You'll be like, okay, I'm going to spark now, or okay, I'm gonna wake up mash. You know, like you're doing this a lot. And it's something that I had only learned about when I reached Platinum in Overwatch how to do. So it's like super important to be thinking and trying to predict what's going to happen.
So a lot of thinking or predicting and knowing what's going to happen is just becoming intimately familiar with situations over time. Like you get
used to things happening a certain way, so you start thinking, oh, this is going to happen.
I have one super glaring bad habit that I can mention right now. Every time I spark, I super dash right after, because I'm like, I gotta go in, like I gotta go fast.
It's actually funny. I remember commenting on one of your videos that you love the super dash button.
Oh yeah.
And then probably 2 or 3 months later, you had a video about how bad it was to super dash.
Yes.
And then and since then, I almost never see you super dash unless you spark. It's like an old habit that you have a hard time picking,
Yeah,
you know?
that is. I mean, okay, so if you spark and you super dash and you get in, like, it's great damage because of the sparking, even off of like hitting with a super dash. So it's just like, all right, high risk, high reward. Surely they won't 2H me. Like, surely I won't get punched in the mouth for this. But
Until you get one rank higher, and then they probably will start doing
and then they just put their feet to my face. It's terrible. But yeah, like even with that, like I have to actively tell myself. So like, let's say it happens in the first game that me and an opponent will play. So I spark, I super dash, they 2H me. Like, okay, like I gotta keep that in mind for next game, and then I try to remember. It doesn't always happen. Like sometimes, like, oh, okay, like they're gonna know that I'm a super dash, they're gonna 2H, and like once I keep it in mind, like I'll usually get a punish out of it because 2H is a very like high recovery. Like it's a very like after 2H people super dash right back because it's like normal to follow that up with. But also like that kind of comes in waves with like paying attention as well. So even though I'm familiar with the situations, like paying attention is definitely a skill in itself, especially for not just fighting games, but like, so Dragon Ball is my main game. It's the game I know the best, but paying attention even in a game like Street Fighter, I'm not as comfortable in. I have a lot of fun with the game, but like if a jury is always doing like her little kickflip thing and she goes up and throws right after, she does that every time and I get hit by it every time, I'm gonna know that
like
she's
a you problem.
Definitely a me problem, but I'm gonna know that, okay, keep in mind after every flip kick she goes up and throws.
I had this is actually kind of interesting. I had a music teacher in high school, and he would have us learn pieces in different languages.
Okay,
and
interesting.
Yeah, I remember we were learning a German song. I can't remember what it was, but someone was telling him, "Hey man, it's really hard to pronounce these words. What can I do to make it better?" And he said, "Well, the problem is you have no experience pronouncing these words, right? So if you have no experience doing these things, you have to learn it." And the way he described it was, you have to envision it like when you're learning, you're having to develop a trench in your brain, and you learning this thing is people digging the trench. You're not gonna get there until you work really, really hard to dig that trench, and that's what learning is like. So when you're trying to learn something, it's repetition, right? I have to go, okay, don't super dash after spark, don't super dash after spark, don't super dash after spark, and I have to fail and super dash after spark.
I have to get
over and
punched in
over
the
and
mouth.
over and over again before I finally dig that trench, right? And then once I do, it's there. You're not going to forget that.
Absolutely.
You know?
Like even I've noticed myself, like I'm super dashing generally a lot less. Like I'll do it if I'll see key blasts on the screen, because obviously,
Right.
But like even in other games I have autopilots that exist as well. Like in Guilty Gear I have an autopilot. In Street Fighter, even though it's the game I play the least, I have an autopilot because I play a certain archetype of characters called Shotos that all perform somewhat similarly from one to another. So going back to something like Street Fighter 4, and the perfect example, it's like I don't know how to pronounce these words. Going back to Street Fighter 4, I don't know how to play this archetype of character. I picked up a grappler. I've never fucking played a grappler. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know what is the best situation with them. I don't know their combos. I don't know how to make people get hit by my command grab and get thrown all around the world.
It's kind of like the archetype of character would be the letters. You know,
Absolutely, yes.
German language uses very similar letters to English, so I can look at the letters and like assume how they sound, but then I don't actually know how to pronounce them, and the pronunciation would be the actual like gameplay, right?
What is I'm a Barbie girl? Is that what that's it? I mean, yeah, like it just, you need to just build the new muscle memory. That's pretty much all. Like it just loops back to that.
Well, and I mean, we're talking kind of like autopilot's a bad thing, which can be the case, but it's important to remember that the reason that people develop autopilot habits is because it
works.
Frees up. Well, it frees up like the brain to do other things.
Mental stack.
Yeah. So if I'm, when I work and I'm doing something that I've done 100 times, it's not efficient to my brain to have to go, okay, I have to do this. Okay, now I have to do this. Right now I got to do this. It's so much more efficient for my brain to go, oh, we know how to do this. And just, you
No,
know,
I know exactly what you mean. Like,
yeah. So,
where we used to work was a prime example of this because I would literally be like,
Oh,
all right, like Bradley, it's go fast day. Like you're gonna go do the fast thing. But the minute I stopped thinking about going fast is when I was
you're
actually,
back to your regular pace.
yeah, I was just like do 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 do, and
But
I
when
was
you're
like,
trying to
I
go
would
too
really like some
fast-
noodles today.
Yeah, and then when you're trying to go fast, you're actually going slower.
Absolutely.
Because you're thinking about every step. Yeah. But I mean, like, autopilot can be a good thing, right? So, like, for example, something that I autopilot on is whenever I take damage from behind me, I immediately turn around, right? Don't have to think about it. I just do it. I'm sure that for you, whenever you see a super dash, you immediately want a 2H, right? Because
Sometimes
that's
even
an autopilot that's really good.
even when it's not there, I'm just like, he's gonna super dash.
You think he's going to super dash, so you try to, like, showering gun precognition, hit the 2H.
I can see. So like, and
Yo, when are we getting a good Naruto fighting game? Is what
dude,
I
everyone wants one.
what I want.
I'm still waiting on fighters to finally get rollback. Everyone's pissed off about that.
Can you
but-
explain rollback to me? Because I don't even know what.
All
that
right,
is.
so welcome to my seminar, everyone. I'm here to explain netcode to you. So rollback netcode is delay-based netcode, but it just works better. So delay-based netcode, it is a connection from peer-to-peer, and depending on the strength of the connection is how delayed the game is.
Okay.
When rollback is implemented, it uses that. It uses a smaller delay, so you don't really feel all that much, but it bases its online algorithm about predictions. So
Okay.
the best example I could give is if you're holding forward, the game is going to predict in the next frame that you're still holding forward.
Okay.
So I'm holding
So it's
forward.
kind
and
of
then-
like a little bit of frame lag.
it's a little bit of like predictions going on, and most of the time it's pretty correct, just based around guessing from what you did from your previous action. What now, where the rollback actually comes into play is when you deviate from that action. So if I'm holding forward, and the game is going to presume that I'm still holding forward until it gets my input that maybe I jump or maybe I throw a punch. Then it'll cut off the first couple of frames of that animation, that jump animation, which is relatively unnoticeable.
Right.
And then it'll roll back and catch back up to your actual action that you're doing.
Okay.
It's
So it actually kind of literally is like showering gun precognition.
it is like predicting the future, but the best thing that comes from it,
Yeah, it's predicting the future by making you play in the past.
exactly. So
Yeah.
the best thing about it is that it allows you to input things like how you would offline. It's supposed to feel like offline play as close as possible, where if you're playing in a delay based game, you are you're playing with a delay.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you were explaining playing with the delay, all I could imagine is like when you have input lag,
And it's like,
you're like pulling your mouse around, right? And then like you feel like you're here, but your mouse is actually here, and it's like this tail that's going on.
so I had
That's all I can
I had a
imagine.
great example of this. It is like going to like a fast food chain that you always go to versus like your new one for a first time. So if you go to a new place for a first time, what they do is like, oh, hi honey, I'll be your server. Like I'm like, what would you like? You want a burger? No? Oh, okay. And then they'll wait until they have all your order to produce your order.
Sure.
But rollback
But
netcode
when
is
you
like,
usually go to.
yeah, rollback netcode is like being a regular at a food chain. It's like, oh, you want the double bacon chili cheeseburger and the milkshake, right? And then you're like, yeah. So they'll bring it out to you. If you say no,
Or you're like no, and they're like, oh, okay, and then they cancel the order they already had typed in.
here you go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, that definitely sounds like a positive.
It is definitely a good thing.
Personally, I think peer-to-peer connection is just garbage.
So
I hate when games have it.
when you play delay, like you're playing with the delay, so your combo timing will be different based around like how delayed that you are. But in rollback
Yeah.
netcode, your combos will always be the same. You input them the same way you would offline, and they will always come out.
Especially since a lot of people don't realize this, but the way fighting games work is by an input system. You're essentially like, you could have 2 pixels and play a fighting game, right? Like, you don't actually need the characters to be there. The only reason the characters are there is so that we as people understand what's happening. But the way the game works is on an input. If I press forward, I'm not initiating a walking animation. I'm just inputting a command to move the pixel over.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same with the attacks. If I hit a button, I'm not starting like some sort of like hitbox thing. I'm actually just telling it, hey, this is the hitbox there, and it just puts it there, right? Like, it's not like it's like, how do I put it?
No,
like when you play
I
a
know
lot
what
of
you mean.
when you play a lot of like hack and slash, for example, when you swing your sword and someone walks into the swing, they're not going to take damage, right? Because the swing's already gone. But if I'm playing a fighting game and I punch and then someone lands on the punch, they're still going to take damage because the hitbox is there.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's more of an input thing, and when the inputs are off, you're gonna drop almost all of your combo.
Oh yeah, I mean, I literally do all the time. Like, there will be times where there's like a bit of a higher delay, and I'll do a combo. I'm like, dude, I don't know how I pulled that shit off. When like when it almost makes playing offline feel like really weird. Like, I'll be dropping my combos more offline
because
or in
you're
training
having
mode.
this like
Yeah.
2 frame per second delay or whatever.
Like 5 or 6 or whatever, and Street
Because,
Fighter
yeah,
5 was
like-
notorious on launch because it had 8 frames of native input delay offline.
Ooh,
Yeah, it was bad.
why? That's terrible.
Yeah, it was the worst shit ever. It literally got
It's
flamed.
funny because like these games run at like 30 to 60 frames depending, right? I think typically it's 60 now.
60
or
these
higher.
days, yeah.
People won't notice frame rate differences of like 8 frames until they're playing a game that's fast paced.
Until
Like-
they are delaying what you do by 8 frames.
Right. Well, like, keep in mind, like, when you watch a video that's at 30 frames a second, and then you go to a movie, that movie's at 24 frames a second, typically. A lot of people don't even notice.
Sure.
Right? Like, they just, and it's kind of the same thing. If I watch you play a game, and you're having this 8-frame lag, I'm not gonna notice. But if I'm pressing the buttons,
But when
I'm
you're
gonna fucking
swimming in the
notice.
maple syrup, like, it's different.
Yeah. Exactly.
No,
So yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to run by me or ask or talk about?
No, not off the top of my head. I think we covered pretty much all of that.
What I will say to not just you but the people at home is there's a lovely channel called Core Gaming that kind of goes behind the philosophies of fighting games and like the mental understanding and like kind of explain things in a more visual way. That's I would very much recommend, not to just to you but but to everyone. And they also have a video like explaining rollback definitely better than I could.
I will say, I do have a comment.
Please.
Anyone watching who hasn't played fighting games, play fighting games with your friends.
Yes.
Let me tell you something.
Woo!
I have not had more fun playing games with my friends than I did playing fighting games with them. Even if you're not good at the game, it's just fucking fun, man.
Oh,
Like, just play fighting games with your friends.
My only caveat to that is when you turn around and decide that I want to learn more about this game.
Yeah, then you get way better than your friend, and then they don't have
And
fun
then they
anymore.
just give up. They drop the game. But I've
Yeah.
literally had a game where I think it was like Mortal Kombat or something, where I was just like, oh, okay, like I want to start getting good at this. It's like, oh, you're beating me up all the time. It's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to play now.
I guess the way I mean it is, like, if you've never done it, then do it at least once. Because like,
it's great.
for one thing, it's gonna develop stronger friendships because you guys are gonna get mad at each other. I think getting mad at your friends is really important to developing friendship. And also, it's really fun to punch people, but you can't do it in real life without getting in trouble. So play fighting games. You can punch people all you want.
Mark, you want to play some fighting games, bro?
Yeah, we can play some fighting.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm trying to get that stick because otherwise I'm on controller. And
Oh yeah, I meant to actually ask you about that. Like, what's the situation with that? Are you like tossing that thing, or are you gonna fix it up, or like have you
I'm
ordered?
tossing the one I have.
You're not
Yeah,
gonna.
it's not worth the money. I'm buying a new one.
Like if it's just replacing a stick, it's not all that much, and it'd be like just this cool like little thing to have. And if it's literally just replacing a stick,
I mean, I haven't even opened it up, but I'll be honest. I like after I bought that thing, I thought about it. I'm like, man, I wish I would have waited for one more check. I'm like, that one's just a piece of junk. I don't want it.
and you said you're ordering the Quanba Obsidian.
I think that was the one. I can pull it up.
It's that is one of the ones I don't have, but it's a good looking stick.
Well, I took a look at all the ones that you recommended to me, and yeah, the Obsidian. And I found two that I really liked the design of, and I went, all right, I'm gonna buy the cheaper one.
So what fighting games are like very appealing to you? Like what looks really good?
I mean, Guilty Gear looks pretty good to me. I'm planning to pick that up. I probably will get back into Dead or Alive. I don't know if I'm gonna play fighters. I just kind of have a hard time playing games with multiple characters.
That's all
Like
good.
I had
Man.
the same thing. I had the same thing with what is it? Blaze Blue Cross Tag or
Yeah,
whatever it was.
cross tag is a
Yeah.
game right there.
I wanted to play it because like I'm a huge
Ruby fan. Yep.
and there's Ruby characters that I'm like that's super cool. But then like I played the game and I'm like, man, this support thing like there's so much extra learning to it, you know.
Okay, so my ex-girlfriend's kids, my kids, whatever, however you want to like pitch this, he was like, oh, I really want to like play Dragon Ball with you. Like I want to play that game that you're playing. He's like, oh, all right, yeah, we could play. And obviously, like I'm pretty decent at Dragon Ball, so I fucked him up. But
Didn't hold back at all.
no, why would I? He's got to learn someday. He's like, yeah, can we try like a different fighting game? I'm like, yeah, sure. We played Street Fighter, like I beat him. And then I was just like, oh, you know what? I have a good idea. So I downloaded Cross Tag. I've never played or touched Cross Tag before. And I know it's like being very mashy is good in that game. So
Yeah.
we played
It's
Cross
very
Tag.
like it feels very fast paced because all the attacks are super fast.
Yeah, we played cross tag, and of course, it was definitely a lot more fair because it's like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, so
Yeah.
I was just as mashy back. But he's just like, oh, I want to play your characters because you're winning. I was just like, all right, you can play my fucking characters. But no, like, part of me, because I like such a natural fascination with fighting games, I was just like, oh man, I like, even though this game's like not popular with like the fighting game community, even though it doesn't really have an online scene, like I'm curious to like learn more about the game. But the moment I learn more, I'm gonna start beating him more, and the moment I'm beating him more, it's just like, oh, this isn't fun anymore.
I guess it's a good idea to have a fighting game that you don't learn, that you still play.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Play fighting games, guys. But
play fighting games.
I think
But I mean, play first-person shooter games.
yeah,
games.
play every game, but also
games.
like don't be afraid to give fighting games a try because they're severely underrepresented by the community.
Yeah, and also if you're the type of person you play like one type of game, play something else. Like
Stop
just
being a
give it
bitch.
some time, you know. Play single-player games. Bro. Single-player
Yes,
games
bro.
people do not play very often. I gotta tell you, if you're a fan of number games, like you play League of Legends, play Persona 5. Right, play a game that's like super number dependent but has a story. You're gonna fucking love it, I promise you.
Like, so I play a lot of competitive games or games competitively, so like fighting games is a prime example. Like I still love FPS even though I don't play them as much. Like I still have an appreciation for League. I still insert other game, whatever.
I mean, shit, you can see with me at fighting games. I haven't played a fighting game in like almost a year, and I watch your videos every time they come out. So
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. But like single player games are important for me because if I'm literally just playing competitive games all the time, like I'm gonna feel terrible. Like single player games are like my decompression point where I'm just like, oh, I don't have to think about the numbers or the frames or the whatever. I just gotta think about this fucking huge ass boss trying to fuck me up.
yeah, it's you don't have to do like extra studying essentially.
It's just different worries and like
Like I mean,
it lets you shut your brain off a little bit.
yeah, and then even if you do want to do something that's kind of challenging, it's at your own pace. There's no other players. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's whatever your pace is, and that's kind of like I think that's the biggest benefit of like Nuzlocke, for an example. Like there's a very popular YouTube channel, Pokemon Challenges, self-proclaimed best Nuzlocker in the world. When he does things like the Emerald Kaizo Nuzlocke that took him 151 tries to beat, this dude will sit there for like 4 hours before a gym just thinking about how to beat the gym, just looking at all his Pokemon, looking at all his items. And in a competitive game, if I join a game and I find another player that I really need to work hard to beat, I don't have 4 hours to.
That is, yeah, that's like a different beast. I mean, like at maximum, like from when I was a kid, like I used to be able to play games like all day, every day, like just like, oh yeah, I played Pokemon Platinum for 24 hours straight as a child, and it was great. But now, like a longer play session for me is like 5 hours max.
Yeah.
Normally my play sessions are like 1 to 2 hours for a game. If I'm streaming like 3 or 4 or 5, yeah, it reaches that point. But like, dude,
I mean,
I can't sit there and play a game like that anymore.
I'll be honest, like, I think that, because obviously for him, that's kind of like a job, right? Like, he streams it full
Yeah,
time,
that
blah,
makes a
blah, blah.
lot more sense.
I think the difference is for, like, kids and for adults playing games, because I find that most adults have a hard time playing games for long periods of time, and I find most adults have a hard time finishing long story-based games. And I think just the big difference is the adults, for one, they have a lot more to worry about, and for two, they're not playing as much because of, like, an addiction, whereas a lot of kids that play are going to get addicted to the games they're playing.
So you remember Troy, right?
Yeah.
Like there were times where literally he would come up to me as like, Brad, I literally just stayed up like 24 hours playing this game. I'm like, dude, I wish I could still do that. Like,
I honestly been like, not, I don't want to diagnose anyone, but I think that if you're the type of person where you could spend 24 hours on one game without getting to the point where you're like anxious or, you know, you need sleep or whatever, you need a break, I actually think you might be addicted.
well, to me, like it's impressive because he doesn't do it all the time. But like, let's say like a new game drops, and like Troy is the type of guy that will, go through the game and play through it as fast as possible. He's just like, I want all the information in my brain right now. To me, like that is like a Herculean feat because I could not do that. Like I get where you're coming from on that point, but it's just like, dude, that's
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't
impressive.
actually.
Like, holy cow.
Yeah, well, and obviously, I don't actually know this person, so I don't know exactly what's going on and what's causing it. But I think the majority of people who are able to sit down for an entire day and play a game, typically, I think it's because they're addicted.
Well, what does a game session for Mark look like? What does Olaf?
Typically for me, I play about 2 to 4 hours.
Okay.
I'm off the game, probably like watching a video, editing something, writing music, you know, something else. Typically, I want to do something creative because.
I hear you.
And this is advice that I have for everyone, not just gamers. Do something creative for at least an hour a day because I'm going to tell you, your imagination's going to die, and it's because you don't exercise it.
Bro, literally, like, I'm probably gonna be sitting down like a lot today, but I've just between work, like I'm sitting a lot at work, and then when I get home, like it's late, and then I'm sitting, and then it's time for bed, and I'm laying down. Literally, I went skating today for like an hour, and I'm like, dude, I haven't jumped like this in a while. I'm having back problems. So, like,
and that's another thing, because obviously life's about balance, right? So. You need to do your hobbies, and the problem with games is that games are typically a pretty brain dead hobby. You're not getting a whole lot of return out of it besides happiness. You need creativity. Be creative. Do something creative. Doesn't matter if you're good at it. Don't worry about being good at it. Just do something creative. Write, draw, sing, whatever. And then you also need to do something physical. And it doesn't have to be something fun. Doesn't have to be something you're good at. It doesn't have to be something you do for a long time. But you need to get your heart rate up, man. Like touch grass, literally.
what? Grass?
Grass, yeah.
What
it's
server
this
is
cool
real life?
thing.
What server is that on? That's weird.
Yeah, it's actually the outside server. It's a mesh they put over some of the ground.
Oh, is there like a texture pack and everything?
Yeah, it's pre-downloaded. You don't gotta install
Nice, dude. What does it render on? Is it in Unreal?
I mean, for me, I needed an extra
Unreal,
graphics
bro.
card for it, but you know.
No, so to wrap things up, like one, I wanted to say thank you for joining me. Like this has been great.
Yeah,
and two,
absolutely.
after this, have you considered what I said about making some more discussion piece-based things?
I mean, I've thought about making discussion videos. I think the problem is that even though one of my hobbies is researching dumb shit that's not very fun for anyone else to research, I enjoy it. But even though I do that, as soon as I do it for like the purpose of a video or something, I lose inspiration. Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely could give my opinion on things. I just don't know if I'm like really qualified. I'm a theater
I would say you
manager,
are. Just
you know
out
what I mean?
of, I mean, okay, for whoever's watching this, let Mark know in the comments below. It's like, oh, dude, like people would love to hear your take, and like I pitched it to you as like, oh yeah, like X Diamond player sponsored by Mountain Dew or whatever. Talks about patch notes, talks about like the overall quality of the build of Overwatch 2 and like my thoughts and opinions on it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
the problem with that is that like there's people way more qualified, right? Like there's top 500 players who give opinions.
But people like perspective.
And my opinions are typically going to be similar to theirs, right? Like when they gave Doomfist 7 buffs, and their opinion was, supports
This
are gonna
is
hate their
stupid.
life this patch. My opinion was, supports are gonna hate their life this patch, right? Like,
Yeah, I also think there's a level of personability with someone such as yourself. It's like, oh yeah, guys, I used to be diamond, but now I just don't take the game as serious anymore. Like, it's just not something. But like, these are my thoughts.
To be honest, that kind of thing works in like League of Legends. Like, the majority of popular creators are like platinum diamond level.
Okay.
But I'll be honest, in Overwatch, it doesn't work. In Overwatch, if you're not
I actually
top 500, no one has any interest in you.
I wanted to ask you too, like, do you still have that like competitive drive
no, not at all. No.
It's dead now. That part of me is gone.
I mean, like, I'm sure I could develop it. I've been competitive.
Has there anything
like,
that
Overwatch,
you felt that remote itch about?
Not recently, no.
No?
I think it also comes down to I'm a lot more content now than I used to be.
Okay.
You know, like, I used to be looking for something to be content with. Now I'm like, I mean, I'm just here, man. I'm just vibing.
Life
I'm doing
is chilling.
things, you know? Yeah. You know?
So, yeah, to finally wrap things up, yeah, once again, thank you. Where can people find you, my friend?
You can find me youtube.com/OLAFTheBARDYT or twitch.tv/OLAFTheBARDYT.
And what's
I'm on YouTube way more than Twitch.
Yeah.
Like, I'll record videos. I don't always stream it. So
what can people expect to see there from you?
right now I'm working on my yellow Nuzlocke that I'm doing on Twitch. I upload the VODs. I'm also doing a 100% merciless run of Persona 5 Royal. And then me and my buddy, who have been doing a Soul Link for a while, we're working on our Black 2 and White 2 Soul Link.
Okay, and then all of that stuff will be in the description down below, but also my Twitch, I've been streaming a little bit more, and also Vince's, oh god, I can't speak, Vince's Instagram account, where you guys can request a commission from him. I'm not sure if he'll do it. He's been a very busy guy, but you can at least ask him, see if he'll do it, and he'll drop a price for you, and yeah, you can get some really good art from him. I don't know if you've seen his art, but he's pretty solid.
Yeah, I think I've seen it. He goes by the Glitterous, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And on Instagram, he is Vandal_pandas. Yeah, I think that's gonna do things. I've had a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Absolutely.
You ready to play some kind of game of some type?
Yeah, we could. Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Maybe we'll do this again soon, but I'll see you all later. Peace.